Hey, everybody, come on in the room. We're going to give you just a few moments to come into the room. I know I've been doing a lot of drop ins lately, a lot of pop ups lately, but it's been a lot of things on my heart, a lot of things on my mind. And I'm just really excited to have my guest tonight. He's a freedom fighter, he's a trailblazer in the way of freedoms and liberties for mankind. And I'm just excited to have him tonight. Ken Dost, he's kind of been a ghost for a couple of years now. So I have the pleasure of being one of the first people to communicate with him live in this setting. He's done a lot of different work on YouTube. And you should be able to, I'll give you some links to be able to connect there to him. But you guys know many years ago, I was talking about this mass exodus. And I told you that the years prior that we were having these conversations, it was a preparation for something that was happening in our future. And so I just believe that Yah was preparing us for this moment. All of the conversations that we have build up to this crescendo of the mass exodus, the literal exodus. So we got information for you tonight. And before we get underway with the information, I want to give the disclaimer. You can see it scrolling across the bottom of my screen. And I want to say this to you guys because anytime you're getting ready to divulge information like we're getting ready to divulge tonight, let me tell you something. If you're smart, you will invite somebody to the room tonight. You don't want this information by yourself. We need to create a community that has this information. What we're interested in doing is pulling the army together so that we can exit. Okay, it requires an army, and so if you're in the room, if you come into this room and you're on the replay, invite some people to the room. This is not information. You've got to get out of that mindset of, oh, I know it and nobody else does. That's ridiculous and that's stupid, because you need more than you to know something so that you can have partners to do the purpose things that are before you to do. So I want to say this, my videos are for educational and or entertainment purposes only. And under the copyright disclaimer in section 107 of the Copyright Act as of 1976, there is an allowance made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news, reporting, scholarship, and research. So fair use is permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise deem this information infringement, but it's not. Nonprofit educational purpose tips the balance in favor of fair use tonight. So nonprofit education, we're not collecting anything. This is not, you don't have to sign up and pay something to get in the room. Now, I'm not stopping you from giving or any of that, but you don't have to sign up and pay anything to hear this information tonight. So nonprofit educational purpose tips balances in the scales in favor of fair use tonight. And this and all other videos prior to this fall under the guise of this disclaimer tonight. Okay. So all systems are a go. Again, I'm excited to have my guest here with me tonight. Ken, again, is a freedom fighter, and he's been fighting for freedom for a very long time. He's been delving into some systems, the systems that I've been talking about for years, that I've made some attempt on in other seasons. Ken has been doing that thing, and he's been getting the clapback from it as well. So I'm going to tell you this right now. If you are skittish, this ain't the place for you tonight. And once you have this information, you're responsible for it. So if you feel kind of skittish, you scary and all of that stuff, just understand you're probably going to remain a captive. And what we want to do tonight is kind of give you information that helps you get in the mindset of breaking the captivity that you've been in. You can't get out until you know a way out. You have to have the information. You have to have the key, right? The key to the cell in order to open it up and get out of it. Or, as Paul and Silas did, they prayed and sang praises, and then the whole prison was opened up. But that's what we're doing tonight, basically. Okay, we're coming to give you information that breaks the prison doors open, and it's going to be your decision to walk out of that prison and to create a new life. So, Ken, it's good to have you here tonight, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I am absolutely excited. We've been having a lot of conversations about coming out of her. And I know you know these passages, coming out of Babylon and this kind of thing. And a lot of people have really thought that meant leaving the U.S. per se, right?
Right.
That's just a misunderstanding. No, it's about leaving the systems. And what we have to understand is that one of the greatest atrocities of darkness against humankind is doing things that you don't know are being done to you. That's happening every day of your life. It started before you were even born. There were
Hmm.
systems that were put in place to put you in captivity. And so what we want to talk about tonight is just we want to kind of go from a little bit from the basics, but we're going to kind of jump around from
Mhm.
basics into mega things and then come back to some basic stuff because there are different people that are going to be on different levels and they're going to be able to receive this information differently. So we want to kind of cover the gamut. But tonight, Ken, can you just kind of open up just talking to the people about the basic systems that were put in place that they have no clue of? And I love to hear him talk. So you guys will hear me just kind of cut in every now and then just to kind of, we're doing an interview of sorts here, but I want to let him really share some things. Some of you have heard me say some of these things, but you're going to get the nitty gritty of it now because he's been delving in the trenches over this stuff. Okay. Give him some basic conversation about these systems that have been put in place to bring the people into captivity and what we're working on now to make sure and the things that you've been working on over the years that have allowed you to tap into some of the things to bring us into some places of clarity so that we'll know what the steps are to move into the place of freedom.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me start by giving a little background
Okay.
about myself. My background is I had 25 years in architecture, the field of architecture, and I had my own business. I was pretty successful in it, and until the economic collapse, which took it under. Now, and of course, that ended up throwing us into default. But I knew something was wrong beforehand. I knew something was wrong in December of 2001 when we tried to refinance our mortgage. You remember after 9/11 when all of there were high interest rates and all of a sudden the interest rates just collapsed, right? They went down to 0% so they can entice people into refinance and get the economy boosting after those towers were brought down. And so we did that. You know, we were paying pretty high interest rate at that point, and interest rates were pretty high at that point, 8, 9%, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And it was down to a lot less than that, a couple percent to a couple percentage points. So we went in just to do a simple refinancing with U.S. Bank, and it turned into a freaking nightmare. Next thing I know is that it ended up. I don't want to go. The details are too long on it, but it ended up collapsing, and it just went to hell on us. And we couldn't understand why it did. And next thing I knew is we were threatened with foreclosure at that point in time. And I'll spare all those details because that's a long story. But that alerted me to something was wrong. And then when the economic collapse occurred, that alerted me to something was definitely and totally wrong. And so after the economy collapsed and there's no business, I mean, it's construction. The architectural field, construction field was dead, and something told me to. I came across a phrase one day, and it was a nerd to the benefit. INURE. And I saw that phrase before, and I couldn't remember where the hell did I see that before. I know that phrase, and it didn't seem to. It was in a financial document, and it didn't seem like it belonged there. Because I'm thinking, where did I picture this? Where did I see this before? And then it occurred to me, I had done a provisional patent for well things, a doghouse. I had come up with some kind of design for some nice little easy to assemble doghouses that I was going to patent as a side gig to my architectural business. And so I had put a provisional patent on it back in like 2005. Well, when I saw this phrase, a nerd to the benefit, that's why I saw that. I saw that in patents. So that's what kind of put me on the road to patents. And when I started getting on patents, I saw I'm seeing all these patents from Bank of America, from Morgan Stanley, from all the banks. I'm thinking, holy crap, this is what they did. Everything that they're doing here is based in patents. And so that's what got me on this road to, which is different than everybody else went. I mean, I took the path less traveled. I think, or actually the path no one travels.
You took a
Um,
path no one travels, brother, because a lot of the other quote unquote gurus have us going in all different kinds of directions.
right.
And we're not necessarily against the whole name change thing at this point. I think we've kind of come to a conclusion that there's a necessity to separate in order to capture
Yes.
and to own the other thing. However, they go so far into that they make that the focus. And that's just a piece of the puzzle. It's not the answer. It's just
No.
a part of the journey.
No, right, right. Now, some of the things that they're talking about, I call them secured party creditors, these gurus that
Yes.
push these
Talk
things.
about that.
I don't think that they're necessarily wrong about what they're doing. But they're outdated. Uh,
It's
There's
antiquated. It's old technology.
it's antiquated. It's highly antiquated because there's a few key things that you don't need to understand that occurred between 1998 and like about 2003, 2004, and these are very key events. Our world changed on June 30th. I think it was June 30th of 1998 with a particular court ruling, and this was a court ruling between State Street versus Signature Financial Group, and it had to do with an automated business method called the hub and spoke patent. And this was an automated computer program that sought out every single possible loophole, tax loophole that you can find, and so that it could be so that investors could utilize it. It was called the hub and spoke, and the court, now they've gone back and forth for several years as whether these processes would be patentable, and the court said yes, they were. Now, in order for something to be patentable, it has to produce a concrete and tangible result. Well, the court ruled that the concrete and tangible result of this hub and spoke patent was not so much the process itself, but the results that the process printed out for the broker, that the broker that can then take to its investors to guide them and give them advice on this thing. So that's what they deemed was the concrete, tangible result, which I think is just totally ludicrous. But that's what the court ruled. On that day, the world changed forever. It changed forever. Because that changed our whole economic system and the way our whole system is organized. That's number one. Number two was a particular agreement that was filed 1 month prior to the State Street ruling, and this was a credit pledge security agreement between Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems and Nations Bank National Association. Now, and this agreement is the most important agreement there is. This is our slave agreement. This is the biggest. This agreement represents the biggest crime in history that you people need to come into understanding about. You won't find it attached to any mortgage loan document, although it should be. But this document is within the United States Patent and Trademarks Office, filed underneath the MERS, Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems, registered service mark. That's where this agreement is found. And I'll get back to more of this agreement in a minute, but let me go through these other points here. The other thing, other important point was the 2001 enactment of the UCC 9, the changes to UCC 9, which is kind of curious because it's all about secure transactions. Then they make that the big point of these revisions. But the basis for UCC 9 is intellectual properties, patents, copyrights, trademarks. And that was
Yeah.
all pushed to the back. It was kind of put in like a catch-all category of general intangibles. And I remember I read a legal review shortly after this was done, and the person that wrote this legal review was just incensed by what was done here because it said they tricked people. This is all about intellectual properties, but they made it a catch-all category so that people wouldn't recognize this thing. So they're hiding the facts within this UCC 9, and I agree, they were. That same year, 2001, was when the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency enacted its deregulation and preemptive policies. And this is what alerted me that there was a problem with this because it was 2 weeks after the OCC initiated these regulations that the U.S. Bank basically tagged us. And what that does, what that deregulation and preemption does, is it strips away all fiduciary duties or any fiduciary duties that was there prior between you and your community banker or you and your broker. All those fiduciary duties that were there prior were stripped by the OCC. They're taken away. And they preempted all of the consumer protection agencies, the government, state, and federal consumer protection agencies basically were ordered to be closed, to shut down. And the OCC also forbid any government agency whatsoever from taking any legal action against the business of banking. The only ones that were allowed to take action against the business of banking now was the OCC itself. So what did that do? That created a vacuum to where I like to say that it basically dropped us off in the desert naked and alone. But we never realized it. Nobody ever caught these things because what were we paying attention to in 2001?
The Twin Towers.
That's right.
So check this out, Ken. So we kind of got a breakdown. I want to kind of slow down just a little bit for those of you that are on the line right now. I want you to take the time to invite some people because this is very important information. And when we're talking about freedom, this is a desire. Freedom is the Father's desire for every man to be free. What the adversary has done we've just really, the church has lended more of itself to spiritual captivities, not understanding that there are further captivities, that your spiritual captivity leads to natural captivity. So when you are spiritually captive, there are things that you are missing, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so when you are missing these things, you don't know all of the other things that are going on behind the scenes. Now, it's something that I've been saying a lot lately that I really want people to pay attention to, because you just said it again. You said what was going on when all of these other things were going on. So there are always distractions
Yes.
in every season when they are doing, when the powers that think they be, and I keep calling them that because the Bible talks about the powers that be. The powers that be are the ones that the Father established, that Yah established. So we're talking about the powers that think they be.
There's a term
Okay,
for that. There's a term for that. It's called fostered ignorance.
fostered ignorance.
And
Okay,
fostered ignorance is when you're directed by others to believe to believe in B when actually it's actually A. So what they're doing
come
is
on.
they're directing you away from what the true issue is, from the truth, and
That's it.
leading you to a false illusion and a false belief.
That's it. And that's exactly what they've been doing.
Yes.
And as long as you've been alive, it's been happening.
Yes.
It's not a new tactic, it's a war tactic. It's a war tactic that's been used in every major war. Every major war has used this tactic where if we're doing something to the mass of people, we need to give them distractions,
Yep.
things that keep them busy, things that keep them entertained, things that
Yep.
keep them comfortable so that we can kill them. And that's just how it works.
When
That's
you
how
just
it
and
works.
when you distract people from the truth, uh,
Yep.
people follow. They go down that path. And what's upsetting to me about this is that we spend so much time, wasted time, doing things that are just totally useless that will never, ever, ever amount to anything. We literally, quite literally, exist. We exist for the pleasure and profits of attorneys. And I saw
Oh
this
my God.
and
So
I saw
true.
I'll have to find this in this document because there's a particular document within patents and trademarks, and I gotta find this. I can't believe I didn't set this aside when I did find it. But it literally said that. I think it was the first American financial trademark assignment, and it literally said in there that people that the persons exist. The only reason why the persons exist is for the pleasure and profits of legal representatives and their successors and assigns.
What was it
And
called again, Ken? The first American trademark assignment?
Well, it was. I think it was in that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll just go back and find it and see if it was in that. But I believe that I saw that within an assignment, a document, a contract, an agreement that was recorded with trademarks, and I believe it was recorded under First American Financial Corporation. I can't. Don't hold me to that because I'm not sure on that. If that's where I found it, but that's what I can. I'm going to dig that one up and see and find that one because that's very important. You see that in text. When you see that right in front of your eyes, it's
It's
like
infuriating. It's
holy.
infuriating.
Yes, it is. It is. And
It's
we do
infuriating.
and we do quite literally exist for their pleasure and profits. And that's the problem. And so what we're doing, so what happens here is you've got all these belief systems. You have this belief of reality um, that you think is reality, and you're chasing your justice, whether it be the court or whatever, to try to find justice or try to find answers. And all you're doing is you're walking right into their trap. You're going to be the court jester for the amusement of these attorneys and judges,
Absolutely.
and that's really that's true. That's
That's a
really
fact.
that is a
That's a
fact.
that's a fact. And what's funny about that is if anybody would dare to even think they want to disagree with that because it's a true statement. It's a diabolic statement, of course, but it's true because everybody here has had some kind of run in, whether it was a ticket, whether it's child support, whatever it is, and you know how difficult it was, except for the grace of Yah, you were a court jester. Okay,
Yes,
it
you
was
are.
a problem. It was a
Yeah,
problem,
it,
particularly with child support because Ken, I have a person that's been dealing with that and finally looked like they got a break. So it got to the place where they were able to pay off the mothers, their ex-wives or whatever.
mhm.
And then after paying them off, now the state is saying two states, saying, "Oh, you owe us $100,000." Whoa, wait a minute. Wait 1 minute. What are we talking about? The mothers have signed off. There is no more child support, but these states have been collecting a fee for for the back pay, for the late payments and all of this
Mhm.
kind of thing
Oh
over
yeah.
all these years. And so it was $120,000, $110,000 total bill. But you're telling me that the majority of that was to the states?
Yeah, it probably was. I mean, it probably was. I'll tell you why that is. And we're jumping around. We're taking a big leap here from what we were initially
That's
talking
okay. We
about.
can go back. We can go back.
Okay. Okay. What we're operating under codes and statutes, legal codes and statutes. Let me tell you what legal codes and statutes are. Legal codes and statutes are rigged, patented, automated business methods. Okay. Now let's just come to an agreement here. I think we can all agree that everything that is anything nowadays is automated. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Everything's automated, right? Everything's an automated process, whether your phone, no matter what it is, it's automated. Now, every automated process originates on a patent. Okay, so that process is patented. Okay, now if it's let's say it's the child welfare system. Let's say it's that. Let's say it's family. What is it? Family services, right? Let's say it's family.
Yes.
Let's say it's
Child
family
support,
services.
family services. Yeah.
Okay, how do you think family services operates? Do you think they operate by personal phone calls? They used to 20 years ago, but everything now is operated by a computer program, right? By a key, and everything that comes across the computer screen, that employee of the state or county or whomever is taking that and basically taking their orders from that computer screen. Are they not? In other words,
Facts.
in
That's a
other
fact.
in other words, people aren't thinking anymore. Okay, we've
Nobody's
been
doing any thoughts. Everything
no.
is obedience to what's on the screen.
That's exactly right. And okay, now all these systems are written as patents. Now, a patent is art. Okay, it's considered art, and art in the sense of art as in the field, liberal arts, but also it took on a new meaning these past 20 years. It's the same acronym though. Well, this is an acronym. ART. An acronym stands for Automated Reasoning Tool, Artificial Intelligence. So what they've done here is they've rigged all
Wow.
of these automated processes. Okay, now let's go back to we agree everything that is anything is automated, right? We would agree with that. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
No,
Okay, and
sir.
everything and that's all patented. Now every patent comes with there's an agreement attached to every patent. Okay, and these are various types of agreements, which is going to be the bulk of our discussions here, over the course of whatever time. And those agreements are drawn up by who? Attorneys. Now,
A bar. The good
yes,
old bar.
now in order to have a patent or a trademark, you have to have an attorney involved. So, let's draw a conclusion here. So, if we agree that everything as anything is patented, okay, I'm sorry, is automated, and everything that automated is patented, and when we're talking about by everything as anything, we're talking about banking, the business of banking, insurance, government, social media, everything, right? Everything. Okay. So if everything as anything is patented, and you have to have a patent I'm sorry, you have to have an attorney to get a patent and a trademark. Who runs this country? Who runs and operates things?
The bar.
The attorneys run everything. The attorneys run and own. They own and operate the United States of America. They own everything by these agreements that are attached to this. Now, that one agreement that I mentioned, that Merged Nations Bank agreement that I mentioned, that was recorded in 1998. Now, that is a concealed agreement that excuse me, that attaches to that is secretly attached to that mortgage loan agreement that people signed. That Fannie Mae Freddie Mac Standard Uniform Instrument. That has MERS in it, where people nominated this entity called MERS as a nominee. And what they didn't disclose to people was that MERS is a registered service mark in the United States of America, and by law, by the Langham Act, must be disclosed. They didn't disclose it to us. They completely hid that from us.
Spell the
And
act, Ken. Spell the act. The Laham
uh,
Act.
Langham,
Leigh.
no. Langham Act is Lanham Act, and they
Okay.
violated Section 15 USC, and I don't know this particular code section offhand. I'll have to pull it. I'll have that. I'll have some of that. I'll pull all this stuff together so we have could put all this information up for people to look at, because we got to put the facts up, put the information up, and all the links and everything. Underneath that merged registered trademark. Now let's go back to this for a second. If you had that signed that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac uniform instrument, and there was that circle R that was represented there, then you would have had the responsibility to do your due diligence and to say, okay, this circle R means something, and you have to figure out what it means, and then you figure it out it was a trademark, and you'd go to if you were doing your competent due diligence, you would follow that. You'd go to the trademark office and look up MERS and see what MERS is all about, right? and it would tell you. It would tell you. You and we would tell you, and you'd see it. You'd run like hell because not even a half-witted idiot moron would sign that Fannie Mae Freddie Mac uniform instrument if they knew what was attached to this thing. Because attached to that,
Absolutely.
because attached to that Fannie Freddie uniform instrument is this Merged Nations Bank agreement. What this agreement does is it steals from you all your assets and properties, real, personal, and intellectual. It takes unrestricted powers of every sort and conjured kind. It takes all license of use and control over you, and it sets over all ownership to an intermediary agent known as an attorney at law.
So it's power of attorney over you without you knowing. You just signed legal power of attorney over to someone
And
without
you
the
did,
knowledge of it.
that's right.
And
No,
all of your trademarks and everything, your
you,
signature,
you signed over
all of
your
it.
everything. You gave them everything. And the worst part about it is they made it irrevocable.
Say
Me,
that again.
they made
Irrevocable. Did y'all hear
irrevocable,
that?
meaning
Okay.
meaning that you can't revoke this thing. And that's precisely why when you go down and try to talk to anybody in government, they don't help you. They won't help you. They refuse to help. They say, "Well, it's a legal question. Go ask an attorney." That's the reason why if you've ever tried to contact the state's attorney general and get some assistance, they say, "I'm sorry, I can't help you." Because why? Because those powers, these hidden powers of attorney, places an intermediary agent between you and the person that you're communicating with, so that person can't communicate with you, right? That's the purpose of power of attorney, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
and so when you can't talk to anybody, when you can't be seen by anybody because you've got those hidden powers of attorney in place, what happens? Nothing. You get
Yeah,
nobody listens
nothing.
to you. Nobody listens to you. Nobody. And
Mm-mm-mm.
that's what's going on here. They've taken ownership of our identity, of our signature, of all our assets and properties. If you think that you own anything, you don't even own the socks and underwear you're wearing.
You're confused. Absolutely. You
They
don't.
own it. They own it. Now you know. Now, if any of you have gone through the foreclosure, or fighting foreclosure, or people have, if you've gotten thrown out of your house at gunpoint by a sheriff and had all
Hmm.
your possessions taken from you and never got them back, that's you know why that happened? Because of that Merged Nations Bank agreement. Because
Absolutely.
because you gave everything over to them, everything
Yeah.
over to them. And now I've known this for years. I've known this since 2010 is when I started. I didn't know all the details I know now, but I knew that there was a hidden agreement and contract tied to this thing.
Hmm.
I've been pounding everybody to try to listen to me. The court, government, they don't listen. They don't listen.
Mm-mm.
All they see is a deadbeat liar and a cheat. And the reason
Hmm.
why they don't listen, there's a couple reasons why. And like I said, I'm really jumping around. I mean, I'm really
That's all
going
right. Get
broad
it through
steps
there.
here, but
That's okay.
this is just a general overview. What I've learned here is that uh, um, government employees are incompetent idiots, or they're on the take. One of the two.
Yeah, they're either getting paid or they have no clue.
Yes,
Those are
because
the two dynamics.
that's right. So
Hmm.
the government that's supposed to protect us is actually the government that is violating depriving our rights under the color of
Hmm.
law, and they're getting paid for it because they are
Hmm.
because underneath these patent agreements, the sheriff's department, government employees are contractors of the
Yes,
attorneys.
they are.
They're
They are.
contractors of the attorneys, so they're acting under contract from
Mm.
these attorneys. Okay, so we are we are literally slaves.
Yeah.
We're slaves.
So can we slow down for a minute? Because for all of the people who are still hung up on the whole white and black thing, that's a part of the plan. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Hmm.
All of the different things like women's rights and, you know, the LGBTQ, all of these different things that they're throwing out there. People think that these are their ideas. They are not your ideas. They are ideas that were given to you through propaganda. You were given these ideas through television. You were given these ideas through radio, through commercial, through
Yep.
music. You were given these ideas and now you think they are your own.
You were
But
brainwashed.
this is you were brainwashed. But see, they've been practicing these things, all of these operations, for years
Hmm.
to identify how to program you. And
Th-
so
th-
much so now, Ken, to they're calling humans hackable. That's the new lingo. That's the new conversation. Humans are hackable. And they
Mhm.
absolutely are. So that's what the last 3 years have been about. The next level of hacking into your human being, into your human um, uh, uh, place, hacking into that. Okay. The first line, I was kind of really going through this, trying to identify, and then I started having dreams about it, and the father really just tells his kids what's really going on in the real world. Those of us that are open and want to know the truth, we're going to stay open and know what's going on. The first line of defense was to try to automate you, to try to make you, mechanical, or try to access you through technology. They
Mhm.
haven't necessarily injected the next thing. That's what the monkeypox and the next stuff that's coming down the pipeline is for,
Well,
to transform you.
what they did was they took the way that they took that all capitalized name from you, which is a
Yep.
non-human, which is let me clarify what that is first of all.
Yes.
People think it's a corporation. It is
It's,
not a corporation. It is
mm-mm,
not a fiction. It is very
mm-mm.
real in the
It's
sense
very
that
real.
if it was a fiction, then they wouldn't be biting me in the ass and biting everybody else in the ass, would it? If it was fiction,
Facts.
okay. What that is, it's a non-human factor of production that was abstracted from the infant child. Okay, it's
It's
referred
the
to as
afterbirth.
it's not an after. No, it's not an afterbirth. It's the
Okay.
intellectual. It's the intellectual soul.
Okay. Got you.
Okay. Now the key word there is intellectual. Okay. So what we're talking about here, what did I say? Art was automated reasoning tool was what intelligent, intellectual,
Artificial intelligence.
artificial
Artificial
intelligence.
intelligence.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What are they doing? So what have they done with that? They turned that all caps name into a puppet, a virtual being.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
he's a virtual being of their creation. It doesn't
That's
represent you or
meta.
I.
That was meta before meta was what it is now. That's meta.
Yes, yes, yes. That and that artificial being, that all caps name, he's a puppet. He agrees with everything that they say that they want him to do. Everything. I mean, and they being the capricious whim of attorneys and the business of banking and government and everything. And they have complete control over that. Okay. Now, that is it's referred to a lot of things. What it is, it's got many different titles. It's an incorporeal hereditament. It is a special purpose vehicle. It's a special purpose entity. Is a vessel. It is a shallow hull vessel. It is a non-human factor of production. It is a trade name. It is a trademark. It is a commercial name. It is an assumed business name. It is anything that you want it to be, anything they want it to be. As a matter of fact, it's a manufacturing product. It's an industrial property. It's an industrial design. It's anything that they want it to be. It is the most valuable thing that you can possess. As a matter of fact, it's so valuable, it's incalculable. That's why they want to control it.
Yep.
That's why they want to steal it from you. So when people sit there and say, "Oh, well, I don't want anything to do with that all caps name. I want to get rid of that thing. It's a corporation. Let's get rid of it." No, that's your inheritance right there. That's your inheritance.
That's the inheritance.
That's the
That's what.
inheritance. That's what they separated from the infant child. When God
That's right.
when God created us, the soul was created first because it was a thought. He contemplated our existence, right? So he contemplated that. So the soul came first, and then our existence came the moment at the moment of conception. So
That's right.
we were created body and soul with an actual existence at that moment of conception. Okay, so when we were born, we had actual existence. But what they did is they came in and they said, we're gonna separate that. We're gonna create the separation. We're gonna separate that intellectual, that soul from this infant child. Because the infant child, all he wants to do is pee and poop anyhow. He's got no intelligence, right? So we're gonna
Yep.
take that intellectual soul from him because that's the energy, that's the power, that's the capital, that's the credit, that's the equity that drives the world, isn't it?
Absolutely. And
Well,
while you're mentioning that, this is just for those of you who actually read the Bible, right? Because the Bible people think is a religious book. It's not a religious book. But even though the Father instituted it and breathed into people inspiration to write it, it was because he understood what was going to be. He understood the evil that we were facing, right? So he said, I'm going to put everything that I need to say to what I created in a book, and people are going to fight over it. They're going to try to misconstrue it. They're going to try to change it, revise it, and all of those kind of things. That's why study is so important. But the scripture that talks about governors and tutors, I'm going to pull it up really quickly, because this is important. This is basically where we are right now. Um, when you're a child, there's nothing that you can do about your inheritance, right? But Galatians chapter 4 talks about the fact that you are a son and you're an inheritor, but you're under governors and tutors until the time appointed of the Father. That means when you're a child, you're in bondage under the elements. In other words, under all the guidelines that are put over you, under all the elements of the world is how Galatians says it. But when the fullness of time comes, then the Father sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under law. So now when the fullness of time came, something was sent to show you a way. And so this is the whole concept that's already written. It's right here in the scripture. And all we have to do is really pay attention to what he's saying. But because people so religiously, make the book about religion, then you don't understand the practicality of the book. Everything you'll ever need is in the book. Even, the master even speaks very explicitly about attorneys. He calls them liars. He calls them liars. He says that the attorneys are liars in Luke 11. He said, "Woe unto you also, ye lawyers, for ye lade men with burdens grievous to be borne, and ye yourselves touch not the burdens with one of your fingers." In other words, you put burdens on people that you can't bear.
Mm-hmm.
You're a liar. He speaks very openly about the liars. So as we're having this conversation, you need to be tapping into your Bible 101, your Bible basics, because it's all here.
Well, I'm gonna give you something else to tap into. It's actually if the Bible is God's book of laws, then
It is. It is.
then the Summa Contra
Yep. Yep.
Gentiles and the Summa Theologia, which was written by Saint. I always get, I don't know why.
Ignatius.
No, it wasn't
Ignatius.
Ignatius. It was Saint Francis Assisi. No, that's not it. Or is it? I always mess that up. I don't know why I always get that confused. But anyhow, the Summa Contra Gentiles was written hundreds of years ago. That's the kind of like the rule book for God's book of laws. And so what's going on here is a natural progression. The natural progression is that when you're an infant, you're dependent upon the loved ones, people around you.
That's right.
Hopefully the people that love you, and take care of you and nurture you and everything. You're dependent on
It was Aquinas, is what you're talking about. St. Thomas Aquinas.
Aquinas. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I absorb myself within these books, and they're so fascinating. They're so fascinating.
There's so much stuff out there. I mean, it just depends on which way you want to go with things. If you really want to go spiritual, you go to all the books that the Bible mentioned, like Enoch and Jasher and all that. If you need to go more legal, you go this direction with the Summa. It's so much out there. But this is why I tell people all the time: you got to have your foundation, and then you got to read. You got to learn things. You have to learn.
Yes, the Summa is essential. It's absolutely essential because the Summa is all about life. It's about life cycle. It's about it's about
it's the legalities of things. What was the specific thing that you said that was a legality? What was the specific laws that one kind of taps into? Is it?
Well, it's the moral laws. It's the divine laws. It's the eternal laws. It's the natural laws, and then of course it goes into man-made law. And keep in mind, this was written hundreds of years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, this is written like during the medieval times, and our system is operating under medieval type systems. That's exactly how it's operating. And it talks about the body and soul and body's separation from soul, and the wisdom that we acquire as we go through life to free ourselves. And so we have religion is religion loosely defined is your duties to God, duties to others, and duties to yourself. So it's basically the golden rule, really, is what it is. And so, but God did not create evil. Man created evil. God created man and good. And so our end, when we die, it's intended that we die good. We die with virtue and good, right? But for every good there's a bad, right? For every up there's a down. For every right there's a left, right? There's always something opposite the other one. So the attorneys, I hate to say it, are the essential evil that we have to overcome, and the systems that they institute. And so and that's what we're talking about here is the separation of that body and soul. And by separating it, what they did is we no longer had actual existence. When they created that birth certificate, our actual existence kind of became a potential for existence that was controlled. That was controlled by an intermediary agent, whether it be a government, whether it be the government employees or government or attorneys or whoever. whoever had rights to grab that and control that all caps name, and that's what they've done. So we have a potential for existence, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't have actual existence until we take back that all caps name and we make it ours. We have to
That's
take
right.
that, and you have to understand that if people want to throw that thing away, no, 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 that's your inheritance right there. That's your inheritance.
Yeah.
That's the higher knowledge. Okay, the higher knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, in the spiritual realm, you've got well, you get the spiritual realm, but then you have what's called metaphysics and all these other things that
Mm-hmm.
are out there, all these other ideas and creations and art and all these conjured schemes and everything. That's all operating
Yeah.
in the spiritual realm, because you can't see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't see it, you can't
And
touch it.
it's
Any of
all
that.
spiritual, whether it's good or evil. It's all spiritual.
Yeah.
It's just what side of the fence that you're operating on. You know.
Right, exactly, it's how you see where you fit into this picture, and how you see
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You can't now a man. People make a blanket statement. I'm a man. I'm sentient man. Blood don't make me. Well, okay. What does that mean? But what they'll do though is they'll always throw off that all caps name. Then they'll divorce themselves. I don't want any part of that. That's fiction. It's not me. Well, then you're not a man. Because the true
Right.
definition of a man is an actual
Somebody who
person,
owns something.
is an individual person, is a physical essence, body and
Mm-hmm.
soul that is a composite
Mm-hmm.
substance, that is an individual personality of an intelligent and rational mind.
Mm-hmm.
And a man is a guy could say he's a man, but if he doesn't include that all caps name and doesn't include that soul in that as being in union with him, then he's a brute. He's an animal. And that's what they see us as. They
That's
see
what
us
they see us as.
mindless
Absolutely.
animals. Yeah, so they don't see us as dead. When people say, "Oh, we're dead, we're dead," no, they don't see us as dead. They see us as
Mm-mm. They
mindless
see us
animals,
as animals.
and I
And
can
so
prove
this
it.
is why, though, Ken, that they're doing the things that they're doing now. I told them, I think last night or the night before, that they were practicing with the other immunizations and all that kind of stuff, practicing training us to be desensitized to what was coming. So the first thing was about, dealing with the intellectual property, dealing with tapping into the soul. Once again, that's why digitize, that's why, technology. But this next thing that's coming down the line is to transform people into something other than what they're
Well,
supposed to be.
they've already done that. That's already
They
been done.
have no, we know that they've done it, but I'm saying the masses of people have not yet really seen all that's already been done. We've only
Oh
seen
no!
it on the
Oh no! Oh no!
movies.
No! Oh
We've
no! No!
Yeah, we've
People are so far down the line.
listen.
It's just it's amazing.
It's
It,
so scary.
it is scary. It's scary because they've done a fantastic job at deluding us
They
and
have.
leading us down a path that goes nowhere, and it really does go nowhere. Um,
Mm-mm.
but you can't look at it in the sense of what you're looking at as. I don't look at it that way. I look at it in the sense of what are my duties and obligations in life. What are
Absolutely. Oh,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah.
What are what are
Listen, I'm just bringing to bear that they have missed what's been going on. We
Yes.
know this is why we're having this because there is a solution. There are answers to things. We just have to come to a table and begin to have discussion about the answers. But there are so many things that they've done such a great job on deluding us of,
Oh, they did a
and so
masterful
now
job.
we've got to get our mind back.
They did a
You got to
masterful
wake
job.
up. Yeah, you got to
They,
wake up and you got to get your mind back.
you got to get well. Not your mind is in your body, but your intelligence is outside you. But your
It
intelligence is
is.
part of the soul. And
Mm-hmm.
in order to move the body, it's not the mind that moves the body. It's the
No,
will.
it's the soul.
It's the will's intellect that moves the body. Well,
Absolutely.
the will's intellect is outside the body. It's in the things that you don't know exist out there.
Absolutely.
That you don't know, but you got to learn about those things that do exist out there. For instance, now with patents and trade. Now let's ties with patents and trademarks so that we can make a correlation here.
Okay.
What patents have done is they've taken that all caps name, and what UCC9 has done was taken that all caps name, and they said, okay, you can cut it into many different pieces as you want. You can attach it to anything you want to. So what we have is we've got fractionalized pieces. I'll use my name for instance of Kenneth W. Dost all over the world. I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. I'm on any. I'm hundreds of
You're a world
7,000.
traveler, sir. You're a world traveler.
I'm just like we all are. We're all world travelers, and those are all the pieces.
Absolutely.
Those are all the pieces, parts of us that prevents us from becoming a whole individual personality. And that all caps name, as a matter of fact, is referred to as personality. So they control my personality here. And so what we need to do is now I can't know every single slice that's out there. It's impossible. I just put it this way. I've gone through in the studies I've done. I test myself to oh God, what was that? Something like 4,800 patents, and that was only that was maybe 10% of my delving into this. We're in thousands and thousands of patents. We're the subject of all these patents. You know why? Because we're the ones that are bringing the collateral. We're the collateral value for all these things. We're the credit. We're the equity. We're the capital. We're the
Right.
grantor. Okay, for all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And but they've taken us. But we're not even in intellectual properties. I mean, they came in and they blatantly just stole our whole identity and just took it in intellectual properties and left us in this realm of a disaster world that we believe is reality, which is just it's an illusion.
It's
It's
an
not real.
illusion. Can we go to this for a second while we're on the fact that this is an illusion and how they've broken up the name and taken it all these places and they're profiting from the places that they're taking it. Can we go back for a hot second to the fact that there is no money
Oh yeah,
and that whole concept of there being no money and what things were put in position because there are a lot of people that are doing different things. They're doing
hmm
different things. They're getting their bills paid. They're doing they're writing on the bill, on the different bills that are due, and identifying the fact that it's not in a negative, so it must be a positive. All of these different things, and some of that stuff.
that's a dangerous game.
It is go ahead, talk us through it.
And that's a dangerous game. I mean, you can go to 10 9, you can go to secured party creditor route, and a lot of people want to do that, set up private trust, or the big thing now is doing the 1099s, 1099As, and whatnot. And I can tell you the people that are doing that, they're very confident in what they're doing, but I can promise you, it's going to bite them in the ass a couple of years down the road. I can guarantee it's
Absolutely,
going to bite
because
them.
they're going to let it go for a little while, and then they're going to come back
Well, it,
for it.
it, it takes them a while to catch up to it. To catch up to it.
Yeah,
But they think they're
yeah,
they're doing everything, but they're not. They're missing one key element here. They've got those hidden powers of attorney control, and
yeah. The
these powers of
trademarks
attorney are going to
and the
bite them in the
patents.
ass. That's right. You
Yeah.
got intermediaries that are going to control that, and they're going to get bitten in the ass. You have to take control of that name. They don't have rights to that name. They don't have because they haven't claimed
Mm-hmm.
it. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
so what they're doing, and also too, to be a secured party creditor these days, um, is not to organize private trust. And I laugh when people try doing that. And they're so serious about it. It's private trust. You got to do this. It's like you can't talk about it. It's private. Well, you know why it's private? It's private because they don't want everybody else, the public, to know how they're screwing everybody. That's why it's private.
Absolutely. That's why it's private.
Exactly why it's private. You know,
Right.
but it's impossible to do a secured party credit these days because everything that's automated, anything is automated, uh,
Yeah.
and that's all patents. So if you're going to be a secured party creditor, then you better become a practitioner in patents and trademarks. And I can guarantee you, none of these secured party creditors are that at all.
No.
So what they're doing is they're coming up with these gimmicks to find these little loopholes within like the 1099s to
Mm-hmm.
off debt and everything like that. It's gonna bite them in the ass. They're not dealing
Yeah.
with the equitable side of this thing. They're just dealing with the debt side of this thing, and they don't understand that there's a whole other components that go to these things. There's
Yeah.
concurrent jurisdictions. Now, if you're gonna go to IRS route, then you need to do a W-8BEN and other
Yeah.
things. You need to
Yeah.
do those things. But I don't even do any of that stuff because if I do, there's one place to fix this thing. Okay,
Hmm.
and that I call it the one-stop shop, and it's where everything originates from.
Mm-hmm. That birth certificate.
Oh no, it's patents and trademarks.
Yeah.
Everything originates there. All the contracts, everything that is originates. Everything you see around you, everything that you don't see
I
around you.
keep telling them that everything is contracts. Everything in the world, everything in your whole life is about contracts.
Well, there's
Like
something more fundamental than that. More fundamental than that is everything as anything in this world that you see in front of you, you don't see in front of you, originates on a patent
it
that has
does.
that has an agreement attached to it. So the
Yes.
agreement's secondary. The invention is the first thing. That the agreement's the
Right.
second. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And, it's those agreements that are our slave agreements. Those are the agreements that took
Mm-hmm.
everything that we own and are controlling everything. So anything that I could, and we'll go through. I'll put lists together, and we'll have all kinds of things. I'll put all
Yeah.
kinds of
When we
information.
come back up, we'll have it all
Yeah,
there.
yeah. This is kind of like an intro, I guess we could say tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's a lot of detail to go into, a lot of detail. Now, what I've done here, I kind of consider myself blessed because, uh, I was an architect. I was happy. You know,
Hmm.
I
Right,
didn't, part,
making good money,
I
making
didn't,
good
part,
money,
yeah, right, right. I didn't partake in
living the
politics.
American dream.
Yes, I was living. Yes, we were living the American dream. We had built. We had scraped and saved, and we bought 10 raw acres. We developed it, built our house, and we were happy. We were great and
Hmm.
wonderful. I didn't think about
Hmm.
politics or even, and I was raised Catholic, so I mean, I had Catholicism. I had Catholicism pounded in my head. So I was
Right.
the minute I graduated from high school, I moved from Cleveland, Ohio, all the way out to California, and left Catholicism far behind me. Right. So
Hmm.
I wasn't religious or anything of that nature. And then all of a sudden I get this slap in the face with this, why am I losing everything? What's going on here? You know, and,
Hmm.
and then the next thing I see that's a nerdy the benefit thing, and I'm looking at patents here, and I'm thinking, why the hell am I doing this stuff? I don't want to do this stuff.
I
This
don't
stuff's
want to do
ugly.
this.
I don't. It's ugly. It's ugly. I
Hmm.
hated what I saw, and I tell you, every time I tried walking away from this stuff. Every time I tried walking away with this, and I don't want anything to do with this. It's ugly. Something would pick me up on my shoulders and plop me back down in front of that computer and said, "You're doing this. You need to do this."
Hmm.
So I feel that I do feel that I've been friends of mine who know me really well. A couple of my friends say I've been divinely blessed, and
Yeah.
I used to laugh and scoff at that. But as time goes by here, it's interesting. I mean, I blow myself away because I don't know how I understand this stuff. For some
Hmm.
reason, I understand now, being an architect, I have a vivid imagination. I can think in my mind. I can put buildings together in my mind, right? So I can put this
Yes.
together in my mind. So I'm very visual, okay?
Yeah.
So that helps out with what I'm doing here. But also too is
Hmm.
for some reason I've always had this insight that other people don't seem to have. I can always see
Hmm.
things that other people don't see. And that says when I was a kid, I used to be called a troublemaker because
Hmm.
a nonconformist because I would never agree with anybody else. And I would say, "Well, I don't
Hmm.
agree with you because you're not looking at it this way," and I was getting in trouble for that. I was getting fights because of that. And then when I was in
Hmm.
college, I had to write a paper in a psychology class. I had to write a paper on something, so I wrote it on this, right? And my professor told me, he put me up and he had a conversation with me. He goes, "Do you ever think that maybe you weren't a troublemaker, but maybe that you kind of got a little gift of insight here that other people don't have?
Hmm.
Maybe that's what you're misinterpreting here." And I thought to
Hmm.
myself, "Huh, he might have a point here." You know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I just thought, okay, so I got an insight here. Well, all this stuff came about together here with after the collapse of the economy, and for some reason, I mean, I just
Hmm.
dove myself into this stuff, and it's literally I eat, sleep, and drink this stuff daily for 12 years,
Absolutely.
and for some reason I understand it. For some reason, I get it. I had to put all the pieces together of it. It took me a while to put all these pieces in place, patents and trademarks, and I had to go back to do the research on the history of the treaties and the
Yeah.
letters, patents, and charters with the England and government and setting up, forming this country and all this stuff. So I had to teach myself law. I had to teach myself legal codes and steps. I had to teach myself about history, real history. I had to teach myself about
Real
patents.
history.
So I had to teach
Hmm.
myself all these things, and I did it my own. And the one thing I
Hmm.
did when I started doing this, I thought, well, okay, I don't. I always had people trying to shove stuff down my throat, saying, "Well, you got to listen to this guy. You got to listen to this guy." And I always kind of said, "No, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm not going to listen to
Hmm.
nobody. I'm not being arrogant or anything, but I want to stay. I don't want any bias here. This what I got to do
Hmm.
here. It's got to be objective. It has to be
Hmm.
objective." So
Yeah.
I pissed off a lot of people in the course of years because I refused to listen or go the path that they're going or tie into them. I said, no, I'm not going to. I'm staying on this path. Something tell me I
Hmm.
have to stay on this path. I believe it's God. I believe
Hmm.
that God has put me on this path. And I tell you,
Hmm.
what I have here just this years after the fact, I've detailed this thing. I got a detailed map of exactly what's going on, how they did it, why they did it, the methods they use. I mean, I get the whole thing detailed out. And
Hmm.
I could prove it. I can prove all
I've
points.
seen it.
But you know
Yeah,
what?
I've seen some of the breakdowns. It's crazy.
It'll blow your mind. It will. And I tell
Mm.
you, I have more clarity than I've ever had because I understand how things work. I see
Hmm.
things for what they really are. I see the lies. I see the deceptions. I ache over the pain people are going through and going the wrong path and being a court jester for these attorneys and I
That's
see
it.
all this stuff and it's like okay well how do I change this? What do I do here with this stuff? But there's a challenge here, because when you
Yeah.
know all this stuff, you think that you go okay I'm going to do an affidavit here and I'm going to go to change it. It's not that easy.
Right. It's
You
not that
know,
easy.
what it is you've got to understand that if everybody knew this stuff, if
We'd
everybody
all
knew
be
what
doing
I
it.
do, nobody would work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work because everything's provided for you in the
Mm-hmm.
universal, that all caps name that in your soul that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's an asset of incalculable value, and it's
Yeah.
yours. You know why it's
Yeah.
yours? Because it wouldn't exist if you didn't breathe life into it. You breathe,
Absolutely.
your first breath is what created that all caps name. Okay,
Yep.
so you have rights to that. They cannot take that away from you. Why? Because the first principle. Who's the first principle? It's God.
God is the first principle.
God's the first principle, and He's the first agent. He created men and women for good,
Mm-hmm.
and for that our end be good. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and so he trumps man-made law. Now the trick
Yeah.
here is to getting government to abide by natural law and not man-made law. That's the
Mm.
trick here, enforcement of this thing. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I've done. It's like, wait a minute. If the population is ignorant, they've been made ignorant. So are the government employees.
Yep.
They don't know what the hell's going on either.
They don't. They don't have a clue.
They don't have a clue. They're doing what's telling them in front of the computer screen. So I have to crack up when people do all these affidavits and they bring in sovereign type citizen stuff into this stuff, and all this stuff they submit to saying, okay, I got this thing. If they don't respond to me in 40 days, then it's just
Yeah.
stuff that.
Then
And
I'll go
that's
get
what I
remedy for that, and I'll get remedy for this, and I'll
yeah,
get
I laugh.
wait for it.
I laugh at that because you know what they did? They took one look at it and they threw it in a garbage can. That's what they did.
That's right. That's what they did.
Because they've been conditioned to think that, "Oh, these guys are just crazy kooks, they're just sovereign citizens," and so
Yeah.
on and so forth, you know, so
Yeah.
they don't even get it. Okay, then you got your judges now who are getting, annuities for foreclosure, summary judgments.
Say that again, because I think you need to slow that part down because people need to understand again what they're up against.
The
When you
judge
walk into this, the
judges are on
judges.
judges are on the payroll of attorneys through an agreement called a debenture. A debenture is an agreement between a foreign bank and the system, as it were, that the court is a party to. They're not under the laws of the United States or the laws of Oregon and the laws of New York. This is under the laws of England, and it has to do with charging documents. When you see charging documents, what does that tell you? Bonds, right? Arrest warrants,
Mm-hmm.
this nature, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now the judges are getting paid. It's an exchange between the security agent, which is the attorney, who is a
Mm-hmm.
security agent for a foreign bank and underneath debentures, and the judge. And it's an exchange for a summary judgment rule for foreclosure, for
Against you.
annuities, for
Mm-hmm.
annuities.
Mm-hmm.
The judge in my case, back in with HSBC, he got $600,000 annuity over 20 years by granting the summary judgment to HSBC on us. That
Mm-hmm.
was our annuity, $600,000 annuity that
Yeah.
judge took. So that's what's
Yeah.
going on here. These patent processes have corrupted government by putting them in the revenue streams. Think
Mm-hmm.
about that for a minute. Think about how powerful that is. So you go to a government official, you say, "You're guilty. I know what you did. I know you did this." You know, do you think they're going to admit to it? No. Do you think they're going to help you out? No. Why? Because if they don't know about this stuff, they don't want to know about it. Why? Because then they have to deal with it, right? They got to deal with this thing as a fraud, and then they got to think, "Oh shit, I'm a part of this
Mm-hmm.
thing. I didn't know it."
Mm-hmm.
So that's one
Mm-hmm.
of the reasons why we don't get anywhere. We don't get anywhere. And you can pound your head on the wall all you want to. You're not going to get anywhere doing this because trust me, I know this because I've got myself up to a very top level of government, which is a cabinet position of the government appointed by the president in patent and
Mm-hmm.
trademark director. Okay, so that's pretty high
Mm-hmm.
up, and
Mm-hmm.
I scared the shit out of them. I
Mm-hmm.
got scared.
You
I
got
got
far, yeah, you got up there and got far enough, but they were like, no,
but I
sir, buddy.
can't get them to push the buttons. You know why? Because
Mm-hmm. Because they're getting paid.
no, well, no, that's not the reason, though. The reason is if I get them to push the button to correct it, then they're
It has to
admitting
be
that there's
corrected
a
across the
problem.
board. Yeah, they're
There's
admitting.
a problem, and then
Yeah,
there's all,
that's
they got
true.
culpability now, so they're not
Yeah.
going to do it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
even though I've got all the evidence in the world on this thing. Okay,
That makes
uh,
sense.
and so we got to find other ways to do it now. So what you have here is everything operates in automation, right? So
Yeah.
so we're outside of this closed loop system. Let's call it a closed loop system. Let's think of it as a balloon, okay? Let's think of it as a balloon. Okay, you got your mouthpiece to blow it up and everything, right? Think of that
Yeah.
mouthpiece as patent and trademarks where everything originates from. Okay,
Okay.
that's where all the agreements originate from. That's where they enslaved us, right? Was at that
Mm-hmm.
mouthpiece right there. And then that
Mm-hmm.
balloon, as they blow it up, is all the outer layer. Inside is the government, and that the balloon is the layer that protects government. That goes out to the county, that goes out to the state, and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
we got to penetrate. We got to get in there so that we can make changes, right? So that we can get corrections to the record,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we
Mm-hmm.
can't get in there. Why? Because because of these irrevocable powers of attorney that originate at that mouthpiece, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we can't get in there. So anything you bring file with the county, like I filed a non-abandonment of homestead. I filed a warranty deed. I filed all kinds of crap. Okay, years ago. That never went anywhere. Never went
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. Got ignored. I've tried talking to the attorney general. I've done just like probably a lot of people that your listeners have done the same thing. You know, it's like pounding your head in the door. You don't get anywhere. You
Mm-hmm.
go nowhere. You should, because what you're doing is you're filing a legal a document, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody's looking at it. Why? Because they're not operating on those things. They're operating on the computer screen that's in front of them that's originating patents and trademarks. That's what they're
So, so
that's
let me
what they're
so let me
operating.
ask you a question. Let me ask you this question.
Hmm.
When we are attempting to assume, okay, so say we're in this position, we want to assume the name. We want to one change a name, our name, and then own the previous situation. Do we own that through patent, or do we what's the word I'm trying to say? Because I heard this many years ago. Incorporate yourself. Do we do that through incorporation? Incorporation, and then
They've already incorporated us. What they did is they incorporated an all caps name to and into these agreements by
right.
reference.
So
Okay.
wouldn't the way to come out be to incorporate and then create another system outside of that? Because okay, I'm gonna show you
No,
this
now,
same.
now you're going to go to secured party. I see what you're trying to. I see what you're saying. I think what you're saying is you're going to secured party creditor route. You're going to play their game. No, we don't want to play their game.
No, no, I ain't going through the secure party
Okay.
creditor. I'm
Okay.
saying if we are the persons that fuel the inheritance, the only thing that doesn't fuel the inheritance is death when they get paid for that as well, right? So how do we reassume the position of authority over the name? Because it's got to
Okay.
be a way to do it because it's written.
Okay. Let's go back to
It's,
our balloon. Let's go back to our balloon for a minute. Okay. Now
mm-hmm,
imagine there's 10,000 balloons out there. Okay. They're
mm-hmm,
up in the air, right? And 10,000
mm-hmm.
strings hanging down. That's 10,000 different slices of our name. That's
Yeah,
in some form or another. It's out there. Okay.
yeah.
It's going on. It's going up in the air. It's going all, everywhere. It's going all everywhere.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm,
and in about a week or so, it'll probably be found in Russia and China and everywhere else, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So what we want to do is we want to grab every one of those strings. We want to make them ours and bring them back to us
mm-hmm.
so that we may be made whole. Because remember, you can't patent nature, can you? And
No.
they push the boundaries of it. It really pushed the boundaries of it. But you've got all these articulated arms and eyes and all this stuff that's out there, right? That are
Mm-hmm,
parts of us, right? That are our member
mm-hmm,
parts. Okay. But now this is
mm-hmm.
all in the abstract, though. Okay, right? It's all in the
Right,
abstract. But in order to make ourselves whole, we have to pull all those strings back together. So if we pull all those things back together towards us, what happens then? We're unpatentable at that point in time, right? Because you can't patent nature.
right,
So what happens? Do you see where I'm going with that?
right, right. But see here, I think that's
So,
the
so,
whole
so,
point. Isn't that the whole point of the jab and all of that? Because if I jab you and I insert something, it's like Monsanto, right? If I scatter the field, right, and I make sure that the farmers that don't use my seed winds up in their field, then I can take their field. That's basically what the whole injection thing is about. I need
well,
to I need to inject you so that I can own you. I can claim rightful ownership.
well, it's another revenue stream for them. They've already got ownership over you 20 times over before COVID or any inoculation or immunizations. They've already got ownership of us. They've already
Facts.
got. They've already got that. It's just another business. Just think of it as another business line.
Right, but see, they had ownership of the proverbial soul, but not the physical body.
Well, they have control of if the sheriff can come to my house in the middle of the night and throw me out of the house, they got control of my physical body now, don't they?
That's true. That's true. But I mean, that's still related to what you signed or whatever the soul related thing was. You know what I'm saying?
It's the soul part the reality is not what you see in front of you. It's
Absolutely.
the metaphysics of the patents. of the conjured ideas, of the conjured schemes, and the capricious whim. It is the metaphysics of
Yeah.
what they're putting that all caps name to. Now you got to remember
Yeah.
something. Everything, people make a big mistake when they sit there and say, "Oh, they're doing this to human beings. They're doing this to human beings." No, they're not. They're not always doing things to human beings. Remember, they're doing it
Mhm.
to virtual beings.
Mhm.
So things that you may think, "Oh, they're poisoning us. They're doing this. They're doing that." Not necessarily. They're
Mhm.
doing that to the virtual beings. Okay,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
um, and it's not a. It's not. You can't draw the two together. I mean, you can in some cases. Yes, like for instance,
Well, break
Monsanto.
down the break down the virtual beings. Because when they put those chemtrails in the air,
Okay, now
how was
that's
that?
that would be a real thing right there. That's what I was gonna say that. You read my mind. I was gonna say the chemtrails. That's very real.
Okay. Okay.
That's affecting us personally. But, there's a lot of things out there, anything any kind of medical research or anything, okay, that when
Mhm.
people sit there and say, "Oh, they're making us do this." Well, okay,
Yeah.
I don't wanna be a
Mm-mm.
part of it, I just opt out of it, can't I?
Absolutely.
If I knew what was going on, I could just opt out of it and say, "I don't wanna be a part of it," opt out of it. Or I could say,
Mhm.
"Okay, great, give me my cut. I've got some rights, title, interest. I got some revenue coming my way."
Mhm.
Because I
Mhm.
because that research, who paid for that research? My all caps name did, and hundreds of
Absolutely.
thousands of other people's all caps name paid for that.
Mhm. I
You gotta look
agree.
at you gotta look at that all caps name as a value. It's a value instrument, okay?
Mhm.
It's whatever they want it to be. It is it is an industrial property that is in manufacturing, okay? Uh,
Yeah.
and so it's this I won't go into that because that's too much for people, and it's like to go through the metaphysics of this thing, the analogy of this. That
Right.
I don't want that people that I don't we won't go there yet with that.
Right.
But what I'd like people to walk away with and understand is that the fact is that all caps name is it's not you, but it belongs to you. Now
Mhm.
the soul is invisible, right? You can't see it, you can't
Mhm.
touch it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, you can't punch
Mm-mm.
it out, right? Right? You
Mm-mm.
can't. So thereby, so thereby, we don't. It's not a part of our body, is it? Physical body. So it's out there somewhere, right? So it could be.
Mhm.
That soul could be having a separate existence outside our body, obviously, because it's being impersonated, right?
Right.
Okay, and so that's what we have to realize. We got to realize that that's a part of our. That's that being out there. That form out there, which is whatever form they want it to be. It's not matter. Okay, we're the
Mhm.
matter. That's the
Right.
form. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, you can't be a human being, a living human being without a man or a woman without having control of that soul. And now you're not going to know everywhere that thing is at. Obviously, I could. There's no way you can because anything
Yeah, I
that's
saw
physical
that list
goes.
that you had, and it was like ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, what they've gotten away with here is that they're having a wild orgy that never ends. Is what they're
Literally.
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 There's no oversight. There's no referees saying, "Okay, you're tired. You got to get out of here." Or
Right.
I don't mean for sexual things, but I'm just saying
No,
that.
no, I mean, it is what it is.
But there's no rules. There's
No
no
rules.
oversight whatsoever. And I would give you a perfect example. I'll give you a perfect proof of this. The Commissioner of Patents and Trademarks. There's one on each side. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, this is a guy that his job is to record the agreement assignments, all these agreements that go with these patents and trademarks, record them to the record. Okay.
Mhm.
Now they know and they admit that they don't check these agreements for legal correctness. Not at
Mhm.
all. But yet they're recording these things. And they're not just recording them, they're taking their directions from these agreements as how to record these things. Okay.
Mm.
So now if I say, wait a second here, I never agreed to this. I never even knew this damn agreement existed. Now that I know these agreements existed, I never agreed to this stuff. So it's a simple
Right.
revocation, right? I
Right.
revoke this. I need you to go back and I need you to kind of revoke these things for me. Okay.
Hmm.
But
Power of attorney.
that's yeah, revoke all that stuff. But guess what? They
Irrevocable.
they won't do it though. No, they won't.
Mm.
They won't do it because that's not the irrevocable part. That's the problem there. They clearly got culpability, don't they? If you want to pick out one person that's most culpable for the problem that's taking place right now in the past 20 years, it's the Commissioner of Patents and Trademarks, or the Commissioner of Patents and the Commissioner of Trademarks. The guy that's blindly recording these things, knowing that they're not
Right.
legally correct at all. Okay,
Mm.
So the logical thing is just to reverse it, revoke it. But guess what? They won't do that. You know why? Because then they got to admit
Culpability.
culpability. Then
Yeah.
so I've got them. So what I've got them is I got them on a huge deprivation of rights case. But do I
Mm-hmm.
want to pursue that? No, I don't want to pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to pursue that. Why? Because I can secure this thing with equity on the equitable side of this thing more cleverly than I can go at it head to head with these guys. Because you go
Mm-hmm.
head to head with them publicly, you can't bring some stuff into the public. Like
Right.
I could not bring that Merged Nations Bank agreement into the courtroom,
Into the courtroom.
even though I got it submitted as part of my evidence. I couldn't bring it into the courtroom because it was
Mm-hmm.
done. It was done in the private. It was done by concealed and in secret, right? That we didn't know about. It was purposely done that way, but it's considered in the private, right? So that's how you.
Because it was done at the closing.
Well, no, it was done in the private. It was done without our knowledge,
Oh, gotcha.
even though the
Gotcha.
merge, so it's non-disclosure. They did
Okay, I
by
got you.
we were directed by fostered ignorance to believe it was a mortgage on the real property, but in fact, that's a buttload of bullshit. They were just leading us
Mm-hmm.
down this path so that so they wouldn't have to disclose to us what this thing really is, which is all about intellectual properties,
Right. Gotcha.
which is where, by the way, your actual chain of title is. It's
Mm-hmm.
not in the land records. It's actually in the agreements and patents and trademarks. I'll show you these things and how to
Gotcha.
identify, how to read these things and stuff. This is fascinating. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating subject. It's fascinating. It's infuriating, but it's fascinating. It takes a certain mindset. What you need to do, what you and your listeners need to do if they want to go this path, is first of all they need to kind of get in their mind a devotion, a dedication to do this, and then you got to take it. You almost got to literally look in the mirror and kind of just pull your mind out of
Walk
your
yourself through it.
everything you
Yep.
knew, everything you believed, and throw it in a garbage can. You got to start over.
Listen.
You got to
Mm.
start over. Yeah, you have to start over. It's
You know what's funny about what you're saying? Because one of the phrases that I wrote down before we got on the live was, "You're not going to win this through your vote, but you'll win it through your devotion."
you're going to win it through your knowledge. That's how you're going to win. You're going to win
Yeah.
it through your
Your
knowledge.
devotion to knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, your devotion to gaining the knowledge, the thirst for knowledge, and then the quest to
Yeah.
understand it. Okay,
Yeah.
uh, this is a whole different ballgame. Okay, this is a spiritual warfare. Is what this is. This is
It
reality.
is.
Your reality is created in the spiritual realm. It's not what you see in front of you. That's all a lie. It's a
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, agents. One thing that you'll know about you got to get in your mind about intermediary agents. Everything they do is they oppose you. They oppose your will. Okay, your will is say, I want the revenues from this. I'm the grantee. Wow, this ain't hell no, no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna take it from you. We're gonna take it from you instead of give it to you. We're gonna take it from you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's every agent. Anytime there's an intermediary agent, he's going or she is got some self interest in themselves. Do they not?
That's right.
Okay, so you got to. So what we have to be is you got to be the agent. With the agent's got to be within the principle. Okay, if the agent's not within the principle, then you're fighting a losing game. You're fighting somebody that's against you, that opposes you. All the actions that they take are going to be opposite what you're taking, and it's exactly what they're doing. So we're the subject matter. Oh no, I take it back. We're the subject grantor of all these patented processes. Okay, now and don't get when you think of and we'll go through all this stuff in a lot more detail. This is like I said, I'm throwing a lot of stuff out
Yeah,
there.
this is just the introduction. So you're getting a lot of different things. And I threw some of the stuff in the room so you guys can go back over it when we get off. Just some ways or just some different things that you can go and look into. But go back and listen to it again so that you can just jot down notes about things that you hear that you're not familiar with. Jot it down and go
And
start looking into it so that when we come back, you kind of have looked at a couple of things, you kind of understand the direction, listen to the recording a couple of times so that you understand what's really being said here. I mean, that agreement that they have is the literal slave agreement, correct?
yeah, it's a slave agreement. What it does is it destroys our unalienable rights granted by God,
Mm-hmm.
our freedoms and liberties. It takes it all, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a mode of human trafficking as well through trademarks.
That's what it is. Now, the Bible says, "Thou shalt not steal," but a lot of people think that steal talks about property, but it's really talking about people. You know, thou should not steal is you don't take people. And it's another part of that in Leviticus that breaks that down.
Yes,
Also in Exodus that
Leviticus. Yes,
breaks it down,
yes.
and lets you know that this means don't take persons. And so this is what's being done. This is
Yeah.
what's being done. They're breaking all of God's laws, making up their own laws because there is a war here. There's a
Mhm.
fight, and it's not just for your spiritual soul. It's for there's different components of the soul. You know, you have you have control over your spiritual being if you opt out of all of these other things, right? However, they've taken uh, this other part of you, and it's all over the place, and they're capitalizing off of you, off of who you are, and it's funny because I was looking up the word personality earlier today, and that word ality talks about the property, right? The properties of a thing, the suffix ality meaning the properties of something. So
Mhm.
the properties of your person, which is literally what's the value, is the property of your person. The property is what holds the value.
It's everything
It's
everything it's everything that all caps name is labor. It's your labor.
it's
That is
labor. Yeah.
it's the labor in form. By your
Mm-hmm.
being born, because it's a universal thing. We're not talking about it. It's not a county thing. It's not a state thing. It's not even a
Mm-hmm.
federal thing. It's universal. The all caps name is
Mm-hmm.
soul. That's a universal. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't belong to the United States. It's a universal thing created by God. So it's
Yeah.
universal. Okay, so you're part of a
Yeah.
universal community. Okay, that there's value attached.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the value attached
Mm-hmm.
to it? Go look at the bank buildings that they've built. All those, go look at
Mm-hmm.
the stadiums that these insurance companies are building. You have a stake in that stuff. You have an interest in all those things. You're the actual stockholder in all these
Mm-hmm.
things. You know, um, so
Mm-hmm.
so what this does is this. I'm gonna. I think this is gonna probably be. I'm gonna. I gotta get back on a platform again. And
Yeah.
I like this platform. I think it's the perfect platform. So I put a lot of
Yes.
information on here to educate people. It takes a little time to get used to and try to grasp onto this all caps name uh, as
Yeah.
uh, as reality to you. It takes a little while to do it, but there's all kinds of information I can back this with, and it's going to help you out doing that. We'll get all that stuff loaded up on somewhere
Yeah.
to find it all. Okay.
Well, what we're going to do on the back end, Ken, is we're going to, like take bits and pieces of this and put it in different places
Yeah.
so that we can start regenerating traffic again to this because a lot of people are following, the secured party creditor method. They're following all these things. And I'm actually in a room that I thought about it tonight. I would have shared that with them so they could have been here, but I'm going to share this with the room tonight.
You know,
So to see,
I remember when I first got into this years ago, when I spending hours on these podcasts or not podcast. Yeah, I guess they're podcasts.
yeah, that's what they are.
Talking
Yeah.
about UCC Article 9, just hours, and people just go on
Oh my
all night long
God.
talking about this stuff. It's like, and I always thought to myself, this doesn't seem right. Something's not right about this. This is
Yeah.
wrong. You
That
know?
was my thoughts, Ken, because it's something that you said that was like, I was like, that's what makes sense to me. Because if it already belongs to me, why do I need to get their permission to do this or that? It's mine.
Right.
I can see putting some things in place to say, I'm coming to take it or I'm coming to take ownership. That
Hmm.
makes sense because if somebody else is holding your property, you have to announce that you're coming to get your property, right?
Yeah.
But asking for their permission was it was throwing me off. I was like, I don't get that.
Well,
I'm
I
lost.
I had this thing. I was two steps from getting from thought I had this all wrapped up. You know this. I was two steps from
Yeah,
that. I knew I was right there. And they
yeah,
came after me. They targeted. And we ended
yeah.
up, just in the interest of fair disclosure, sheriff ended up on May 21st, ended up coming and evicting us from our house. Never saw it
Hmm.
coming. Never saw it coming at all.
Never saw it coming.
We're targeted by that. But, and I had, we were in default, but that we had was fully satisfied, had a full satisfaction of mortgage, had no mortgage debt whatsoever. And they still came after me, took the house. They did this
Mm-hmm.
through a writ. It was underhanded thing, but it's the worst feeling in the world. It's just
Hmm.
devastating. But it happened for a reason. It happened for a
Hmm.
particular reason because there were certain things that I still needed to. I knew all this stuff, right? But there were certain things I need to see how it fits into place that I can only see how it fits in place by experiencing it firsthand. That's why that happened.
Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
and so, I'm actually kind of proud of myself. I didn't fall to pieces. I thought I was going to just.
I'm so proud. Yeah, I'm so
I
proud.
almost did a couple times. There was
And you
one night.
held your wife down. You held her together really good. That's a good thing.
Well, we both had our moments. I mean, there was one night that I was like a little baby. I cried. I just cried. I couldn't stop
Yeah,
crying. But I had it one night, and then after
yeah.
that, I kept going. I kept going. I keep on pushing. I keep on persevering. But it had to happen. because I had to
Yeah.
experience that to know what these final couple little pieces were in place. I know what they are now. I know because I see now exactly how these patents work their way through the county and through the court system, and exactly what
Yes.
they're doing. Okay, as a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, I pull the patents up for that. How they do this stuff? How these patents are just they pipeline right into the judge's chambers. I mean, it's all rigged, people. It's
Mm.
completely and totally rigged.
It is. It
Okay,
is.
um,
But it's hard to tell people that have been brainwashed to believe so many things. But you have to hear it in order to begin to believe it.
well,
You
you
have
know
to
what?
hear it.
The problem with if you're in the foreclosure side of this thing, all
Hmm.
people see is the deadbeat liar and cheat because that's what you've been stereotyped as,
Hmm.
right? And the greatest again, this goes back to the fostered ignorance part. Uh,
Yes.
just make that person out. They didn't pay their house. You pay your mortgage. Why should they didn't pay theirs? So they get thrown out of their house, and and it's common sense. It's common
Hmm.
sense. Why should my neighbor have to pay his house, but I don't pay mine, and I can stay in my house, but he's paying it? That doesn't make sense, and
Hmm.
it doesn't. It goes against common sense. So rightfully,
Hmm.
there's that natural separation from the people that are fighting this stuff and society at large who hasn't experienced this stuff and just think, why do I want to get involved with that? I don't care.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And that's but see the thing about it is though is they design this thing so beautifully evil that it falls in place with things. So it's hard to talk to people about this stuff because all they see is a person that's just wants to get a free house, you know.
Hmm.
And so so this
Hmm.
breaking the stereotype is very very difficult here.
It
It's
is.
the most difficult thing. That stereotype there is just such a destructive force upon us, you
It
know.
is. And that's why we can go into a little more depth about there being no money and how all of that stuff went down in another situation because this is it all boils down
It
to
all comes
some
down to the same thing.
things. Yeah.
You talk about child support, child issues earlier, and or any issue applies to this.
Yeah.
Okay, any issue. If you got to, what we want to do is we want to make ourselves indivisible,
Hmm.
so that we're kicked out of patents. Basically, we're kicked out of patents because you can't patent nature, and then everything that's been out there comes back to us, reverts back
Hmm.
to us. So it's equitable reversion. That's what we want to happen. So what the goal here is not to be a secured party creditor. It's not
Hmm.
to balance and manage trust or anything like that. It's to, well, in plain English, it's to get the black card and to take the credit, the incalculable credit value of that name and live, live our lives.
Hmm.
Our super value, read it in super added value the remainder of
Yeah.
our lives by our
Yeah.
knowledge and understanding. And our knowledge and understanding is that wait a minute, what you've got here, this is not the United States of America. This is a bullshit. This is a marketing plan. This is a
Yeah.
marketing plan that we
It's a
sell.
marketing scheme.
It's a mark.
It's a
It's a marketing scheme that bases freedom and liberties on Social Security, right? And that's similar
yeah.
at Social Security, right? Which is just a sliver because when you encapsulate what all that all caps name really means, that's the universe right there. Okay, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they've got to believe in this freedoms and liberties. Well, I'll tell you one thing: you can't have freedoms and liberties unless you have fair and equal justice.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and the minute you don't have fair and equal justice, you don't have freedoms and liberties, and we don't
No,
have
no such monsters. No such monkey. There's
no.
no such monkey.
There was, but not in 2001. That's when what the
That's when it
OCC
all
did.
went down.
That's when it
And
all
I
went down.
and I think it's hilarious because that's the year that everything changed for me. You know what I mean? It was the year that my eyes began to open and I began to see things a whole lot differently. It was that year that changed everything for me. It changed how I viewed the political world. It changed how I viewed so many different things. You
We got,
know.
me too. We got so screwed over by U.S. Bank.
Mm, mm,
I don't want to go through the whole thing. It's so difficult, it's so complicated. But I nobody would listen to me. Nobody would. I went to a local news reporter. I tried telling him about the story. He said, "That's nonsensical. Banks can't do that kind of stuff."
mm,
Oh yeah.
hmm.
I would talk to that guy now and see if he has the same feeling. So I knew this. I knew stuff. So when everybody was having their heyday in the mid 2000s, early part of 2005, 2006, when the economy was exploding, it was influencing
Hmm.
us.
It
And
was.
I was starting to see what's going on here, and I didn't quite understand it at that point. But I saw that there were problems, and then after the collapse, and then when I started getting into the research, I saw exactly what it was. You know,
Hmm.
so I mean, I remember, I remember when all this knowledge started coming into me. I had a friend that was visiting from Utah, and I told him it's trademarks, man. It's Woody Woodpecker. It's trade names. All these things. He thought I was fucking nuts. Pardon my French. He thought I was nuts. But you know
Right.
what? But
Well,
you know what?
this guy is crazy.
I was a little excited back then, but but
Right, right.
I'm not far off from the fact. It's pretty much true. It is.
Yeah,
It's a virtual being created from the mind of somebody else that
yeah,
performs to whatever that person wants them to perform to, and that's a
yeah,
slave. And that's a slave.
yeah.
So when you can control, when you can take away a fair and equal justice system, then that's how you control human beings. That's what human trafficking comes in, because
That's where it comes in.
once that's gone, what is there? You're controlled by
Nothing.
licenses. You're right, exactly. You have no control over anything, and that's where they have
Yeah.
us right now. We are
Wow.
mortgage electronic registration systems is the biggest criminal conspiracy in the history of this world.
Wow.
And the way to deal with it is to deal with it with knowledge and intelligent responses to it, and intelligent actions to
Yeah.
counter what they're doing. And then once you
Yeah.
do it, now you got to see. Here's the, you can't get. We need the court though. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we can't move a You're not going to move a government into making a correction for affected errors, which is what this is called. Affected errors being fraud, right? They call it
Mm-hmm.
affected errors. Nice word for fraud, right? You're not gonna move any government official to correct affected errors, because once they do that, they got to admit there's a problem, right? And then once they admit
Right.
there's a problem, then they realize, oh shit, I'm part of it, and they got culpability. So how do you
Mm-hmm.
move them? You move them by the court. You need
Mm-hmm.
the court to move them. How do you do
Yeah.
that? They get
Equity.
on the equity side, yes. And then so once you get a court order, then governments, you hand it to government, they're just gonna do it, right? They're okay, I'm ordered to do this by the court. I'm just gonna do it. What happens? They don't have to admit to culpability or anything, do they? At that point,
No, they
liability.
just have to follow the order.
That's right. That's exactly
Mm-hmm.
right. So that's where we got to be in this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so you know, I mean, we
Mm.
talked about a lot tonight. I think we're just
Listen, wait, I just had a thought. I just had a thought. What do you think about creating a system? Because since everything is automated, what do you think about creating a system that everybody comes into that and then I have to think it through. What
because
you just
because it become corrupt at some point. It become corrupt at some point.
yeah.
It'll get corrupted at some point. This is something that you can't do. You can't do a
Well, why
blanket.
don't they? Why don't everybody create their own system? I'm saying like it doesn't have to be a whole system that everybody comes into and it's just one person heading it, but to create, to teach people how to create their own
Well,
system.
that's kind of where we're going with this. Is that we're teaching people so they can do their own actions. You can't do it
Right.
like Anna von Rich says. She tries to do everything blanket for everybody. You can't put a blanket over everybody.
No, you can't.
This is something that's in the mind. This is your purpose in life. Your duties and
It's
obligations.
individual. It's an individual thing. You have to
It's
make a decision to do
it's
it.
spiritual. Yes, it's spiritual. So this is an individual action that has to be done. Yes, we can
Yeah.
teach it and do all these things and everything, but
Yeah.
there's a couple things I'm not even going to say what to do because I don't want to because I don't want to do that because I don't want people just going to do that one thing and then missing
Right.
stuff because that's not the point. It's just a moral obligation here. I kind of there's a moral obligation here to help people and to teach people what I've learned because I'm blessed to have learned this stuff and I
Yes.
feel obligated to it. But at the same time, there's also a moral obligation not to give out the exact answers for everything because if I do that, then what purpose am I
Yeah.
serving? Because
Right.
our purpose in this life is to praise and love God and to realize that hey he's the one that owns everything he's the one that created everything
Yeah.
that's our duty and obligation to realize this and to realize that to strive for an end that is good and virtuous right uh,
Yes.
that has to originate within each individual person individually
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so this is a spiritual thing here,
It
but it
is.
is a doable thing to solve. And I tell you one thing, as much pain as we've endured through this, I
Hmm.
gotta say it really is the best experience I've ever had because of what I've learned.
Yeah.
Your world becomes so much clearer.
Mm.
You see things for what they are and what they really are, and
Yeah.
not and that's what's beautiful about this. You understand government. You understand. I mean, it was really nice about this. All the pieces start falling in place. We start. At first, it's kind of complicated, right? But all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, as you go on there, you can pursue it. Keep on digging into it. You're going to start having
Mm-hmm.
all these aha moments. I promise
Yeah.
you. Tons of aha moments. It's like you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh shit! I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know,
got it. I got
and
it.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
you have all kinds of those moments. Some
Mm-hmm.
people will come real easy. Some people
Yeah.
might work a little bit harder at it, but I promise you, I promise you that if you work at this, you understand. If you come and understand what the all caps name is and how it reps and all these things we're talking about, the world is going to be a lot better place. Different place. It's going to be a lot.
Hmm.
You're going to see things for what it really is. You're not going to be
Yeah.
afraid anymore. You're not going to be uncertain anymore. You're going to be more determined. You're going to be confident, and you're
I
going to.
just believe it's going to give confidence just across the board because all of the things that you just mentioned just now is how life really should work. You
Yes.
know, if we look at our what people consider misfortunes, if we look at those things that are disruptors or things that inconvenience us, if we look at them more closely, then there's something to be learned in that.
Yeah. Now,
And if
now,
we go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, it's something to be learned in it. And if we apply ourselves to learning what needs to be learned, then it makes things easier. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
just opens your eyes and it just like you said, there's no more fear there anymore because now I know for what it is. I know it for what it is.
And we
I'm
got
no
to.
longer I'm no longer hiding from something that I was some boogeyman. You know what I
And we
mean?
right, exactly. And we got to identify who the enemy is. The enemy is attorneys
Been
at law.
saying that. Yeah.
They are the enemies. Okay, it's not the
Yeah.
government. I mean, in some cases, yes, the government, the part of the government that is in the revenue streams, yes, they're a big
Yeah.
part of it, and they'll go
Yeah.
down. They'll have a day, but the rest of the government is just as ignorant as you as
As the
everybody else.
people are.
You
Yeah.
know, this is a play that's being
Mm-hmm.
directed and staged by attorneys at law and the business of banking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is
Mm-hmm.
written by them, it is orchestrated by them, and it is directed by them through automated patented
Mm-hmm.
processes. That's
Wow.
where all that's the control right there. That's the Wizard of Oz. That's his control panel. You know,
That
remember when Toto
wow.
went back and found it, pull the curtain back? That's the curtain right
Wow.
there. Okay,
That's
that's
crazy.
that's
That's
the curtain.
crazy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm excited. You know, I'm
I am
excited.
too.
This
I'm
is
excited.
this is good knowledge to share. It's a lot of knowledge to share. And but I'll tell you one thing: you'll never have more evidence in the world than I can give on this stuff.
Right. And we're gonna delve into it. I mean, we'll just pick a topic and just go at it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
What I'll do is
Because we
I'll draw up like a punch list because there's probably like 6 or 7 items that are of particular, you know,
okay.
like one will be the summa theology, another one will be patents, another one will be trademarks, another one will be government, and there's different parts of this thing to start
Okay.
together. But the biggest thing to really focus on is that all caps name and to get rid of that idea that it's a fiction and that it's a corporation. It's not a corporation. That all caps name has been incorporated to and into partnerships, LLCs. That's where it's in. It's in all those things. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
corporation itself. It is an
Mm-hmm.
incorporeal hereditament,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and incorporeal being not real, right? But think of
Yeah.
corporation for a minute. Corporeal, what? Corporeal is real, right? But
Yeah.
this is our it's you could technically describe as an intellectual soul, meaning
Yeah.
that it's something that's been taken by the intellects, by those with the science
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
manipulated and for their use to profit from. Um,
Absolutely.
but it's our
By the magicians. By the magicians.
by the magician. So yeah, right. When people say
Magistrates.
you talk about casting spells and everything like that,
Yeah, all of that.
that's metaphysics. As a matter of fact, IBM, IBM.
Mm-hmm.
You know who controls? Oh, who's that? Your daughter?
Mm-hmm.
How old
No,
is she?
that's my grandson.
Oh, okay.
He's 4.
Oh.
He always sneaks in here. Everybody else knows how to go to their own room. He's my little shadow. Yeah.
What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying now. I lost my thought on that. But why don't we? I think I've already cut it here though, because we threw a lot
Yeah.
out.
It was a lot of information. I appreciate you for being on tonight. I'm gonna definitely, we'll chop it up and send it out to different platforms so that we can
Mhm.
kind of get a noise, a little stir going on with
Yeah,
what's going on here, and then we can come back maybe once a week,
I think
and
so.
just
Yeah,
kind
let's
of
do that.
start breaking it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's a good idea. Because I'll put together. Well, here's what I've got. They're a couple years old. I mean, they're about 5 or 6 years old. But those PowerPoints I did, you'll see them on my
Okay.
Facebook now and again. I can I can email those to you. You could do whatever you want with them.
Okay.
That's a good basis to start with. Um,
Okay.
um, and then we'll go from there.
That
Um,
sounds like a plan.
but we'll get into
Sounds like a plan.
we'll get into these agreements and the meats and potatoes of these agreements, so you really understand. If you read these things, you're like, holy shit! You'll be angry. You'll piss you
Yeah.
off.
It
You
does
know,
piss you off. Now, let me ask you this before you leave. What
sure.
do you suggest is the best way for people to access or get into a living space right now? You just say rent until they understand what all of this what all of this encompasses.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that right now. I mean, because it's do you want to buy a house right now? If you're thinking about buying a house, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that because you're not buying a house and now you're going to be turned into a renter.
Right,
If you're trying to stay in your place right now and threaten with eviction and everything, then you need to learn fast. um,
right.
you don't want to fight the courts. You don't want to you don't there's you do want to be in equity is how we want to be in this stuff.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff we'll break down because a lot of people probably won't understand what we mean by being in equity. It just means that you're dealing with the court outside of court, not
Well,
inside of.
right, it's an administrative type of thing.
It's administrative. It's paperwork
But like
versus
I said,
standing.
I did all these things. If anybody was more secure, nobody was more secure than from their house being secure than I was. I had as an
Right.
employee, and they still came and took it. But then again, I was
Mm-hmm.
targeted. We were targeted though because of what I'm doing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but so I had to kind of relook at that and think, okay, well, I've got all my pieces in place here. Then I realized, you know what? We need the order. We need the court order.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotta have. They're not going to perform unless they have that court order, and we'll go into all that stuff and talk about all those things, over the next couple of weeks. But
Yeah.
there's an exodus from this,
Yeah.
and basically what it is it's a charitable gift of God that come back to
Yeah.
us from decades past and from future. This is not
Yeah.
about dead. This is not about dead estates. It's about living estates. You can't
That's
spend
right.
it. You can't spend it if you're dead, can you?
Mm-mm.
And if they slice, just think about it this way: if they sliced you up, UCC9, they sliced us up into a million different pieces, right? That's a million different
Mm-hmm.
revenue streams out there,
That's right.
right? And
That's right.
you're entitled to a cut of all that stuff. So you're not going to be an executor because that's for dead people.
Yeah.
You're the living estate. You're the living soul.
Mm-hmm.
You know that
Mm-hmm.
that's so you got constant. And this is why they've gone to such extremes to hide this from us because it's constant revenue. It's constant. It's incalculable value.
Mm-hmm. And they know it because they're using it.
Right, and that's right. And it's proven just
Yeah.
by their origin in patents and trademarks. I don't have to prove
Mm-hmm.
anything. It's proven upon the embodiment of patents and trademarks. It's proven.
Mm-hmm.
It's all proven there.
Wow.
So
Wow.
anyway,
Well, we'll
so
be back, guys. We'll do it once a week. I don't know what day we're going to do it on yet. We'll talk and find out what's a good day for you, Ken, and then we'll just make it happen. It's going to be probably late in the evening like this because generally it's kind of quiet around here, and I want us to be able to dive in. Is this a good time for you as well?
yeah, it's a good time for me. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
time was
we'll
a good
dive
night.
in.
Time was a good night because we threw out an overview.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll connect and we'll identify what day is going to be good, and we'll just kind of go from there, and we'll be flexible when I'm out of town or when you're out of town or doing something, and we'll just make it happen because what we really want to do is get to you the information so you can have an understanding of the enemy that you're fighting. And I've been talking about this for the last 2 weeks. It's you're just fighting to win when you don't know what you're fighting, and that's not a winning battle.
You got to know.
That's
You got to know
you
your
got to
enemy,
know the enemy that you're fighting. You have to.
and you don't know
Um,
him. You
yeah,
don't
that's the
know
only way
him.
you're going to conquer. That's the only way you're going to conquer. Be more than a conqueror is if you know the enemy that you're fighting and you have the right strategy in place to deal with that adversary. So we're
Absolutely.
glad that you guys were on with us tonight. Again, thank you, Ken. You're such amazing wealth of knowledge. And no apologies. You talk how you talk. People that can't handle that will just miss, the information. I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
People got to get off of their high horse and get out of this place where they don't know how to receive information unless it's disseminated a certain way. And if it's leaning towards, that's why people are ignorant
Yeah.
because they will watch movies and listen to stuff that is going completely left. And you're just having a basic conversation and you're using exclamation points. That's what I'm calling the
Well,
language. The
you know, I
exclamation points because it's necessary because you're making a point.
Well, I tried when I first started doing this. Well, okay, I talk too fast. I interrupt people.
I do all of that, so you're good.
I cuss too much. I thought, well, I gotta kind of make myself more presentable. And I thought, you know what? Screw it. That's me. This is my personality. This is
Right,
I'm not
Right.
going to change my personality, you know. And I find that most people, most people have to they take me and it to slow me down, listen to me about 5 or 10 times before they could because I'm talking so.
Listen, that's a
But
fact.
they appreciate the passion, you know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
because
you got to be
it's
able to
real, you
deal.
know.
It's
It, it's
real.
it's real. I don't want to make it. If I just start doing, if I start choreographing myself, and I make it corporate, like a corporate presentation. It's not me then, you
It's
know.
not. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So
We want the authentic version of ourselves, and we want to be that because that's when we're the truest. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? That's what the Father honors is our true, authentic version of who we are presented to the world. It's already too many non-authentic people.
that's right.
You know,
That's right. That's right.
and that's what we're dealing with when we're dealing with all of these patents and all of this stuff. It's just non-authentic, and it's
Right.
very diabolic in nature. So
It's
I'm
extreme.
thankful that you were on with us tonight, and like I said, we'll talk and we'll connect and make sure we have a date, and then I'll put it up for everybody. But in the meantime, I'm gonna cut it up and send it, like I said, to a couple places so we can just kind of gather, and I'll send it to some rooms that I know are talking about these kind of things because they need to come in and see a different view.
Yeah,
You
I, I
know?
I think so. I mean, at least be open to it. You know, because everything
Yeah,
everything I'm talking about, I can prove. I mean, it's just proof.
absolutely,
We don't want to
absolutely.
shots in the dark like with IRS stuff. It's just uh,
Uh-uh. No, it's too much. It's
yep,
too much. Those systems are too far into place, and you can't think that you're going to just come in with one little letter and overthrow a system that's been operating
no,
for all
there's
of
too
these
many
years. They've got
there's
too many loopholes, too many back doors. It's too
too many.
much going on.
That's right. That's right. The system's rigged. You got too many different pieces parts out there. So
Yeah,
if you try doing this individually, like individual agency, you're going to miss something. I guarantee you're
yeah,
going to miss something. It's going to come back bite you in the ass. You got to go
yeah,
to the one stop shop, which is patents and trademarks. Where the
yeah,
rich to fix it all. You know. So
yeah,
anyhow,
yeah.
well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Good.
sir. Have a good night. We're gonna come back next week, and we're gonna be ready for some more mass exodus. We're gonna get these spoils, y'all. We're gonna get them.
Yep,
It's
we are.
time to get them. We got to
All
get
right.
them. All
All
right.
right.
Good
All right.
night, Ken. Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody.
And I'll call you tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow then, you and I.
Okay, that sounds like a plan, Ken.
Okay,
Appreciate
fantastic.
you, sir.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
All right, you too. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Night, everybody.